야다 졸로버 저기 줄고 받으래샤. 졸와람 켜서대. 유 벤조르 텐데나 캥바치기와 말에 대에네 양 벤조르 첨보이지나 소문땅 마시나 캥바치네 양 수수수수기 누굴 먹부지 사게 어레스. 와다 텐데 치기와 말에 대에네 다 개비 졸라 파카규레기 삼당구레 저 어다 대순거래 인교란다.
And so moving on to the verse number 19, the verse number 19 is carrying wealth and possessions onto the path, or how to work with, being of means or having wealth in a way that we don't become arrogant and prideful. For once we become arrogant and prideful, this is an accumulation of a negative karma.
어다 캥바스인데 슈 준보였나? 아니 수이 쟁기더니 연del내야다. 이젠람 자선 대화제야다. 근데 시방 과긴 지거래. tumbe강라 추미차. 마겔젤라 캥바젤라 이니베 연대미 차즈데 페요레스.
And so when we're arrogant, when we become prideful and arrogant about our things and our situations, this causes a kind of blindness to the side of others, to the side of other good qualities, and leads to an increase in our own pride or in our own self-focus.
어다 니는 순도스 냠버타신 로망 주인디 남테 부진 너다 톱줄장 세페 발저 님보 메지네 캥바메 바갸살알인 세다 순도스 때문에 뭐마스타페 랍자지리 나라죠 유펜저 메나디고 아마레 유펜저 메네메네 칼리지리 여네 캥발라서 바이네 텐디치네 아니 디기 타두게 셈기지데니 tun두야 아마레 셈기지데 유벤저를 뉘아 매아세 가서 세보래.
디 셈기지데
열어.
오 라서.
셈기지데 유벤저를 뉘투야 매아세 세볼 차대요레. 딘디게 인디갈라 간체 아니 간체 코라 벤저 중구지라디갈라 디니여나 상이 매차 그래. 제질파데 니마샤르다 제질파 매차도 왔어. 아니 벤저다 냠구지간라다 코 차자 매차에 니마지라베 라바통과 소리 차이냐가 요래 매 땐저이니 말에 디요하는 것도 통지수래 이미 엄마 벤저 첨부하러 다다 빼 교부시고 차여서 통지수야래 어떻디 고 벤저 대양 고 위배한진지다 고에니 벤저라 냐메가 한진 바 하고에나 냐메자데 셈라 대점치 동알데 용 말해스 디 내산데 마시비고네 애니페 벤저 코나게 위키 티그리삼 anything 이마치 뱃데 파 냠베자데 애니페 사루바나진치네 애니페 셈라 동알 첨부 용 거라
사루바낭신
어다고 사루바낭신
올라서
나톰세 너나 애니페 같이 송삼데네 셈라 동알 첨부지 레거래 어떻든지 이거라 고란신디 시나 셈니 동알 용과 말때나지 디에네 구파 아니 빼다 개베철에 규르투비아당 삼로 개베철로 땅투비아 와다 두스체니 순고하래 되지 오늘 야 오마제 과지 차고하래스.
And now on verse number 19, on page 19. Though praised and well known, admired by many, who act most respectful by bowing their head, though having obtained a vast treasure of riches, which equals the store of the great God of wealth, yet seeing full well that this fruit of samsara, though fortunate, still has no essence at all, cast out what pride we might have in these glories, the sons of the Buddhas all practice this way. And the other translation, though you become famous and many bow to you, and you gain riches to equal Vajravana's, see that worldly fortune is without essence and be unconceited. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. And so, just as we have been discussing in our other instructions, there can be difficulties whether we have things in possessions or when we don't have possessions. For example, in this example points out that when we actually are of means and have wealth and possessions, that can bring us certain difficulties, and then when we don't have them, it can also bring certain difficulties. However, what we have to understand is that what is the source of our actual happiness and well-being? Actually, the happiness, our sense of happiness, comes from the mind. It is a mental thing, and not rather based on outer possessions. Outer possessions can be gone tomorrow. We can have them today, and then tomorrow it can be gone, and we can be completely empty-handed. So one day, like the rising of the sun, like the sunrise, it can come, and then understand that it can be fleeting and gone the next day. If we understand the nature of wealth and possessions and their lack of any true essence, then when they are not there or when we lose them, then we will not be upset. But it's actually that we don't realize their real essencelessness that we become upset when all of a sudden it's gone, and we can become completely devastated like that rising sun that has now turned into the complete darkness of the total sunset. But when we can understand the fleeting nature of these wealth and possessions, then we will not be upset and devastated when they are no longer there.
맞죠? 통치수여 말해. 다 계산 둔다긴라 자판의 사인견이 미가서진 대중신송. 타나 강바 유 벤저 타나 소인질라 에디 코치. 다신 셈밖에 미도 왔어. 어다 때가 나신 게사 로초라야 아메리카 로초라야 즉 뭐니 미 두개서진 대중치.
The chocolate, the correction
사임견이.
la so.
근데 좀 친소스. 안에 또 벤저다 벤저리. 다때 가라 소인진 치 말에. 국내 봐 기니야 말에. 경바체에 유 벤저스를 경바체 땐 싸워니 말에. 네가서 덴덴 놀고 와래. 유 벤저 맨안 디고 말에. 강 여바들라 진짜 매버거네. 다 경제 와야 돼. 벤 미지로 배쳐버려 있어와. दूस चेबे ना यू पेंजर सायाला कालेची साने सुंक्योब चेयाला कालेची सुंक्योब चेने किंगबे वांगी नेपा साया चेबे ने केवाची माताला इंडिविजुअल जिया की गुच्छा बरे ते याबो किने मारेस काची यो काजीला येंचा मेविथोने चिकचेबे ना तांदा पेचे तांगी योबा केवाची माला नेबे ती येंचा वांगी lungal de nyongya khona yo mare te indigala oda tiso khengba phangwa de ta yupenjer chi bo mare yenden gane khengba yo go de ya chi ngone heba bume zebu yi de ngwa je na yang zeje chani khengba cha yong gre oda tene de khengba mangbore khemberi mangbore khemberi 가지 미래의 초월은 된지지 차자 로데 총에 두 당고야 돼. 그 전부 순고하래.
And so there are actually many examples of this that we can see in our world today. It can be very evident about the fleetingness of worldly possessions. Just a couple of weeks past, then There was the natural disaster of an earthquake where hundreds were killed, houses were lost, loss of life, loss of possessions gone in an instant. And recently, again in South America, there was another earthquake which brought about the same kind of loss all at once. And so when we do happen to own and possess some wealth, some possession, have some means, then we shouldn't be really conceited. We shouldn't be conceited, proud that we have it, attached to it. Because again, when we have this, we develop these kinds of attitudes and attachments to it. We need to protect it. We need to save it and protect it. And again, it could be just gone through some kind of a loss and then not be there. So it's not that we shouldn't have anything at all, that we shouldn't have any wealth or possessions. That's not the point here, but rather the point here is to, not become attached to it, not become proud and conceited that we have it. We can use it. We can put it to good use, employ the use of this and have it. But then we will not be upset if it's gone. And so when we do have attachment to that which we possess, then it creates this this connection of attachment, which which brings many faults. There are many faults in having a connected and attachment connected that can actually bring harm rather than good.
Wada dingone ndirida yagindu tugen sungare janandu be nyomundu sendrase jangwema de tang moshebe munzin tuyasa misiv ke chimbore nangba sange baina chindra nangindra zde nyomula dalta gore ati ngone ne mimbore chindala ngazu tresayore shira nega chimboke mare 대바진 라칭인지도 트레이니션 다질런 조샤기나 코다 따다 다 보여요 말을 코 베트가 유튜브에 다 난긴다 뉴몽도 숨 잔지 머리 버싱인데 그래서 민도와 여사 민도와 좀 전에 군인 자 전부 진들란도나 난기 뉴몽도 잔로야 민도와 뉴몽도 잔행 두긴 저자 민도와 소소 강lep서데 뉴몽도 렙데 거와 딘두가 다 랑기 뉴몽데 폰탑 뉴몽데 둘탑 제데 다 남바상기 투모바인 비키지 잡키치 차디오레스 뉴몽게 동안 때 규산해요레 뉴몽게 민데비 동안데 뉴몽 때 징겨레 뉴몽데 뭐가지레 동안 뭐가 있나 뉴몽데 뭐가 차디오레 뭐가 우가야 멤버 그거 민바 그거 민바 차요레 와다 텐데 인디가라 랑기 뉴몽데 nguyên betoni a pontabn juwaide watati shivne chimbuchin sungwares tin nangpa sangi mamado jinsta ta chirpu pada tendegi ya hindu nala chirpu pada janism da tendegi ri khaji nyomu rapa tang dulengo mare nyomu thawa pontab shiga mare yang karzana songni to beltawa konzi samlu khorang kurgo mare तेनाने सेम जेम्बर माटुमना यानी सेम सिंगे जेम्बर माटुमना यानी चेता मासी चाय होंगे तीन दुगाला सेम कर्सोरी न्यूमों थामो थाइन थावा पोंया जिरबुबी जुंग शेगे हमारे शेगे हमारे इसरोआ न्यूमों रापते ने पांतुबु कोसे पांगे औरे कांचे जिरा के नामचन यानी जिने टुगियाके 냠len chekenji ta chulu gadejina
जिने
जिने टुगियाके 냠len
라통당
chekenji
시네기
라통다 지덴베 라통 고제 삼당기리 라통 뭐마데 연구하 말에 이 제부받던 제니즘에서 요 말에 근데 이들가라다 신의 중간에서 또서 뉴모라팔라 거는 제 뉴모라파 방에데 고제 탑시 찍어데 남베 두무 많이 말했잖아 라투야 말했어 와 그래서 하고 그랬어
And so, what is our real our enemy or our foe? According to Buddhism, then it's the negative states of mind that are our real foe, that works against our best interests. This is the quintessential point of Buddhism. We have the outer enemies and the inner enemies. The outer enemies, sooner or later, they move away. We can be rid of them. We can cast them aside. However, with our inner enemies, these afflictive emotions, there is no way to run from these that we have inside the inner mental states. But actually, this is something that we can work to abandon and work to tame. This inner enemy of the negative mental states is something that can be tamed, something that can be abandoned. We have control over this, rather than having control out of these outer enemies. And the reason is that these inner afflictions aren't something that need to be there. This is not something that we need to keep, something that always need to be there. But what we need to do is we have to identify, first we need to identify that which needs to be abandoned, that which needs to be tamed. And actually this is really what is really a speciality of the Buddha Dharma, a speciality of the Buddhist practice. The other practices, such as the non-Buddhist spiritual traditions, such as the Hindu traditions and Jainism and other non-Buddhist practices, they don't have, within their system of thought, they don't have what is necessary to abandon these inner afflictions at their very root, the finest, most subtle inner afflictions of the negative mental states. They don't have within their spiritual thought that which eliminates and eradicates this. This emptiness and this understanding that of the insubstantiability of existent, of that which appears to be existent. So they don't have within their view the lack of true existence or emptiness. So that which eliminates the afflictive emotion at their finest or subtlest aspect is something that they don't adhere to. Although they have the single-pointed meditation of Shinei or calm abiding meditation, they don't have the wisdom aspect of the view of emptiness that actually
고난티드나 살보도아스 랑게 제상 라오 마툴나 지로 라오 두징 벨규베 벨와르기로 디치 짬나니지 마풍기 라규들와 야슬라링 저거네 다데 시나 간담 살보레 시로와 다 랑게 제상 라오 시디갈라 간데실롱 원진지 보레 준주나라 네페 제당 생인데 아니 당부 내 당부에 배 또봐 공을 공도 개와라 게 지금 쪼지 제당 찾고 와래 아니 계산 좀 해라 제당 내 투처에 균이야 말
아니,
게 싸와
Geretzawa.
게 싸wan 좀 젤라 제당대 슈춤 쉬고지 찾고 와래 근데 인베스 차니 아니 제당대 다 말한서 내 당부와 람 꼬마꼬마라 깨랑게 정인지 당 계산 좀 버적인다 또 제당 뭐가 돼 때래 인규 녀모 강가래 말한서 녀모 간이 시키나 되게 대wan 인진거 말해 제당도 저 민수 거네 아니 제당 라서베 녀모 되게 뚫고래 대 마톨나 지금 라고 가서 들리나 아니 다 마루 차그로 마도 뉴루 차야 말해 뭐다 tindi니가라 즉 뭐다 둘탄 둘로 대양 고춘지케니 라툴리아까지 시고 말해 아니 가서 풍디니 아니 미망부루루지 뿡뿡반디지 녀몽 둘탄 책까지 시고 말해 가르 녀몽 둘고 가래잖아 녀몽 쳐대 파 율레 깨용되가라 띠균 둘탄이 왜 저기 짬바데 인지도 배 마키베 끼바지 끼바 꼰꼰도 플레야기 탑시 제바이나 뭐다 묘모 라징기 슈충루다 개와 라징기 때 개왜 저로도 가서 슈제 자들이 묘모도 슈충루고 와래 제단 잠는 이제 마풍스기 송도아 다때 풍년이 몇 가지 말해 타진 몇 년보래 년보더라 풍년라 돈이 또 나와 묘모 풍야기 년보지어라 되라 돈이 또 따와마다 잠바든 이제 말해 잠바든 이제 생인데 내가 거기 디지털 타신백년 모습이 그 깨봐이나 녀모라진 게 슈충로 어떻게 펜더여래 인디가라 라규틀 와세데가라 장주기 잠바든 이제 세와 장주기 셈로서 막길래께나 미래의 초기 셈게 라진이 슈충로 거야다 곧 셈데 베베 직 갈소래 랑기 가족 가바지구나 유초초지 소소 셈데 라왕용 거래 스로와 딘두가라 셈데 랑라 라왕요 인사 아니 잠바다 개베 졸라 까와 가기르네 유초초 인사 셈 둘시야데 고아데 티레 아니 녀모 초인데 왜 녀모 깨용데가라 다 셈라 라왕 미도 녀모 버 이정도 쇼르고 마다 셈라 땡자원입니다. 땡가란서 간가 대샤 가서 길에 여여리 대샤 기여도 가르치기도 남주 가르치기도 제단 기용도 찍어지게 아니 콘도키데 텔레장 테마타도 랑네 셈기데킬라 젠테 코리우 탐제기 셈기데킬라 아니 랑라강에 미치기 아치 난 콘도자노 코페 두자 니니치 송세야지 메라 땅과에 가서 셈 판백원이 요가지 연구도 가스 때때서 간가 어다 셈경기 차니 디리 어다 tindi데 잠바데 니제 마후 세드가라 잠바데 니제 때서게 랑이 줄라네 베 양니양도 렘버지 뭐남 진진이냐 배자로 이 양니양도 탑시제 시부진 내 첨벌했어
And now we're moving to verse number 20 on page 19. If anger that dwells in our heart lies neglected, and turning instead to our external foes, we try to destroy them and even kill thousands, the thousands of others will plague us still more. So seeing this action is not the solution, let's master the forces of mercy and love. Turn inwards and tame the wild flow of our mind stream. The sons of the Buddhas all practice this way. Or, while the enemy of your own anger is unsubdued, though you conquer external foes, they will only increase. Therefore, with the militia of love and compassion, subdue your own mind. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. And so these words make it actually very clear that anger is actually our enemy. Anger is one's own enemy. And actually, you can read about this also, about the faults of anger in the way of the Bodhisattva. And actually, for us beginners, practitioners, when the afflictive emotion of anger rises, this actually causes the roots of virtue to be eliminated. It destroys the roots of virtue. This very arising of anger in beginners can then eradicate all of the roots of virtue that we have already accumulated. However, working with this very emotion of anger in other ways then can further and further increase our practice on the path. However, if we don't first tame our minds, then rather than increasing our roots of virtue, it will cause them to diminish. So we need to work with methods to tame our own mind. So how do we work to tame our mind when it comes to things like this enemy of anger? So we should look first at the faults of anger. When we have anger in our mind, creating or engaging in virtue would be very difficult. It actually decreases. But when we lessen the afflictive emotion of anger, then the mind of virtue further and further increases. So it's with this, as our text says, the militia of love and compassion. Tame your own mind. Really what it is that helps us to tame our mind is this militia of love and compassion. The anger and the afflictive emotions, these are temporary, and through love and compassion, holding them in our mind, we can decrease our anger. This helps to work to decrease it and tame it. And then with bodhicitta and love in our mind, then we turn away from the direction of non-virtue and we turn towards virtue. And not only this, when we do have a mind of love and compassion, in this kind of a mental state, then we have some, like the power of choice. We actually have independence over our own mind. But rather, when we fall sway to strong emotions that might arise in our mind, we have lost any independence over this. When we have lost our independence through falling under the sway of an afflictive emotion such as anger, how could we even think about, entering into virtue, doing, something virtuous or responding virtuous? And so, anger is just like this, is just like that which steals away our independence, steals away our ability to act in virtue. And not only this, with this militia of love and compassion, then one also establishes oneself, in a contentment of mind, in a happiness of mind as well. So one should think about the faults of falling sway to the enemy of anger, and always remember to keep in mind love and compassion and the benefits of that. We'll read about this, the benefits and qualities again and again, and one should consider it again and again, for it is a really a consequential point.
rangi semde tuli ina ni chinda kal tuli da chiba chikyare is rangi semde di pe de la pe serma yese kuriuchi nala ni serma kogin de na serma ton serma zuru yendo nombo serma serma oh nombo toa karla kare masoina lapa zuyagi teneyoro ton mangboyosa 가르라겠대. 간지 간제티나
Die Bussen, Rebbe.
셈말에 거기 신주 용인지도 신중에 근데 신중에 신지 깨서디 고리울라 신데 중에 강가 뛴데나
Oh, lasso. Oh,
December
lasso
bra.
tema. Oh, hagoson. Oh, lasso.
사망라서
Oh, di
Tünden-
sala.
Oh,
Sala
sala.
yuna?
뛴데나 뒤좀 고르그레지 텔레 깡딜라 과지요네 아니 러시아이나 설마다 강가 뚜드 고아데 집지기야로 소소네요 말이스 친다 가져이나 랑게 셈도 뚫리나 친다데기 견 깨지고 말이스 준준은 설보여래 시디지마 지진 민도들 베데 타가 집지기야요 빼닌 집어는니
And so within the way of the Bodhisattva, then it's actually spoken about really beautifully when it, and in the same way that it speaks about that if the enemy of our own anger is not subdued, our outer enemies only increase and increase. It's actually the enemy of our anger that needs to be subdued. When we subdue our own anger, then naturally these outer foes and obstructors and so on will decrease. It's actually the anger that affects these outer enemies. And it's the anger that needs to be tamed if we want all of the outer external enemies to decrease as well. And so there's an example that, let's say the ground is covered with thorns. It would just be an impossible effort and very time consuming for us to rid the external environment of all the thorns and the things on the ground that we would need to protect our feet from. But rather, if we turn to ourselves and protect our feet, then we could go about this bumpy ground without any problem whatsoever. So this is a really beautiful example of what's being said here in verse number 20. Okay. Nala indicate your. So saying that next time that he can bring this actual example. It's really such a beautifully like a story or an example within the way of the Bodhisattva. Like there's a metaphor of the covering one's feet to be able to go anywhere. So it's like the same. Subduing the afflictive emotion of our own anger is the way to conquer all of these external enemies. And he said next time he can bring it along. And so, if you have any questions now, please feel free to ask. Mm-hmm.
So, does Geshe-la have any suggestions for lay people to implement the understanding of emptiness into daily life? Personally, I feel like I understand emptiness when I'm sitting on a cushion, but then when life starts, my habitual tendencies tend to take over. And so I'm curious if you have any suggestions or tips of ways we can try to make it more, hold it in our mind throughout our daily life.
아니 디 똥이기 타와기 콜레레 아니 나디 디 삼로탕네 나디 똥이기 타와 아니 하고기 인게레 하고기 유기레 예나양 뉴리 미세딜라 컨드레스 똥이기 타와 아니 자고레 람 컨드레스 케고레 뉴리 미세딜라 nga pena gomgyaptu ani hagogi yogire yenayang di mitse dila pena legachadu kasakala trude kandresti tongi gitawa jagore lega tichepa chutsula
디레스로와 말한서 단다 똥이 타와 찌마찌진지 서무 코르트구에요 말에 지단에 직 동니 달라 잡아서기도 하세 빼고 가보 고나 두마 로지 봐 아니 그 취지간에 동니 기내사다 야보 제소나 젠다라 집지 그냥 자대요래
셴라스나
젠다 취젠다 간라 어디 부람제 로지 처지는 가바는 배나 고 나무 여나지 부람 초 가바는잖아 나무 여래스 대나진지기 동니 세네 오늘 죄 탐적이 내루 빼고 가보지들 레디 여래데 고나 신디당 시마당 강가를 펜터야지를 마다 펜미터야지 끼니 말했으와 밀가이나다 제 럽중이나다 수이나다데 냠내 아버지 제바이나 미진둥라로 펜 미스바 펜더 용은지 자요레스 너규 말바당 제 밀라 제베도 제
제밀라당 수
너규 말바로
마르발로자
티니 조지파데아티 저기 로마레타 갈사 계속 개념에 밀가래 간제 돈이 타와서 풀도 좋아지 두 갱겨레스 뭐다 여러 문제 승부도 있으러와 돈이 더 뭔가 땡들려고 저 학과에나 땡진 delwa 좋아인 바데 맞아 랑 세야데 젤라테네 랑라 거로 맞아 젠지 메나 랑랍사 코란요 말에 딘데기 랑직 땡들기 네즈루 디셰바이나 첩시바직 세나 첩시데 야보시용 그래
잡시
political
어
대속에 땡들리 야보시 세바이나 첩시데 빼 템보 야보지 라이 용그레세 숭두스 총바지 디셰바이나 디 총데 빼 겹상 개바당 안에 빼총 람루 용거 총 규보 용그레세 세두스 여름 지대 숭두스 때문에 가서 사회 가서 돈이라 삼로한테 좀 걸고 말해 삼로 코로이나 그 내루데 타모 인상 가보려래 인교 가서 낭줄데 라쪼쪼 삼다사 가서 낭줄데 간지 남기도 낭줄데 나진지 누구 민도 왔다 라파 잠기 tinsan 생리배 시기어래 윤리기나 낭줄데 미투미 인상 거기 제바제네니 낭나진지 민두스데 관자라고 알았어와 낭줄데 가서 이런 거네 초톱도 낭인지 율 코랑 거네 여봤지 가서 낭기도 와 대나진지 삼다나 대나진지 낭나진지 라야미도 마라티 단내사 간디지네요래 제담제 규단께 야니 민경 따여 점지 타냐 점지마다 율 코랑 거네 매어지다 세부차디요 가보래 돈이 나와서 배 가보래 여름 뭐지 답에 로줍진 저기는 돈이 라네 배 공부하시게 단다시기여서 숨도
카레티 타마델라 양케 타마델라 지겔워름 포체키
여름 뭐지 로줍진 저기는 손데 돈이 라 공부하시게 인스 삼탄 인스 양양
카두네
로줍진 저기는 단달로 개주패래 다이난 돈이 둔지 술디 지과지 레기도 우시 딘디 야로 뭐지 할레베 배 가서 오래 두 원발 랍첨보래 공기 때리지 손도 가가지고 삼 뜰렸다 당과야지 자고 어레스 이나 삼 돈이 있는데 맞아 팬미도 건지 균 자요 말했어 와 돈이 러삼다나 맞아 균쟁이 녀몽데 매차고 어레 왜인데 돈이를 맞아 녀몽 이 왜지니 뭐 돈이를 맞아 전다 균이요 말해
데토 통니기 타와 톱네드네 빈 요망케
타와 토바다 레서사 균매 차고 왔다 어디 버디 겨다 댕이한 떠서 주고
So for us to be able to understand and explain this view of emptiness is really extremely difficult. We can't really put this forth as it really is, for it is extremely deep. It is extremely profound, this meaning of emptiness. For example, it can be said to be in a way of one taste, of a singular taste. In speaking about taste, it would be like our inability to express the flavor of sweetness. You could give someone something sweet to taste and to eat, but can that person then fully express the full meaning of what sweetness really is? And emptiness is exactly like that. Emptiness is the true abiding nature of all phenomena. It is the true nature of existence. And coming to an understanding, a full personal understanding of this is extremely beneficial. Whether you are a lay person or whether you are monastic, it is equally important to come to an understanding of this, a full experiential personal understanding. And just as Marpa and Master Milarepa and one of the students of Atisha have understood emptiness exactly, authentically as it is. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama is always saying how extremely important it is for us to get a full experiential understanding of in Tibetan Tendril, of interdependence, the interdependent relationships of all things. This is their true nature. The true nature is of a dependent nature. It is said, and His Holiness also says, that if for example, politicians or people in the political realm of things understood the true abiding nature, if they really understood interdependence, then they would be able to employ this in a way that politically it would bring stability. If businessmen and women were to truly understand interdependence, then this would bring about success and profit. And His Holiness is always talking about this. But however, for us to think about it, for us to think and speak about this, the workings of emptiness, it's extremely subtle. It's an extremely subtle thing to explain, but if I can say here that if you can come to terms with the understanding of how the way things appear and the way things really are at odds. The way things actually are is not the way they appear. And so if one can contemplate this, through contemplation, one can understand what this is all about, and that all phenomenal existence, all phenomenal things come about through, actually are due to causes and conditions, and actually are just mere labels, merely labeled. This is extremely difficult to do. And His Holiness himself says that he has been working to study and come to terms and resolve and have this understanding of the profound emptiness from the time that he was like a 17-year-old or so, all the way up until now, and is just beginning to come to some like understanding and resolve this. And so if this is the case with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, then we can, think about what this means to us as well. And it's not that this thing that's called emptiness, that we will not get it, that we won't be able to, bring it to this kind of a level of personal understanding. However, once we do, this is the very way that we eliminate these afflictive mental states, through coming to a true personal experience of that which is called emptiness. Brings us to resolve these afflictive emotions that are the cause of us gathering all of the karma that we gather. Gyalwe Jungne. And so actually, the Geshe-la is saying that the student of Atisha, who was a lay practitioner, Gyalwe Jongne Dromden Gyalwe Jongne, was a lay practitioner who understood directly the meaning of emptiness.
that teaching jirja chede teaching ringi jirja chede kacheshena chanchu gi semla chumingi nyowa thopdi gala choma maimbe ni chanchu gi sem thula thuni nyowa thayongdi gala ne cholam chung singin thobare
cholam chung
thobare dini lo kom tongni tobel tawadan tende ne tunji chudi sanudade en tunji la sanamdo ne jolam do prebare tunji ani tongi tunji sudu tobaina jolam do prebare kazate
ani jolam de la di
da jolam la nase ke mambu yare te jolam de yang gom de ta sanam thonginda thonam thobare ta tongi wonsum도 to sore wada tongi wonsum도 to padang 아니 파파인 주로 땡기 가자 파파래 아니 자메 깨지 땅부터 버래 자메 깨지 땅부 성용 웃음도 더 받아 예 자메 깨지 땅부터 봐 뛰념래 사 땅부터 봐 대서마 뛰념래 뛰는 존데 레 균이 살도 사야 균이 매라겨 파파를 레 살사 매세야 돼
간다크티 아니 that's 고통성 아니 계실라 영케 책도 놓치나 Dorduchena the Solam the Junksem
Janju Semla Juningi Nyoa Tomindugala Solam Bachabare
Loso
Da Janju Isem da Soni to Veltawa Gom Tonji Tulgi and Toyundugala Jolam Bachabra Tony Tunji Sud Dotigala Jolam Chabare Da Jolam Nam Pezamang Boyardarum Da 다티 곰네 아니 똥이 랑원숨도 상남 토비용도 갈라 람데 발람 통람 발람 시거레 통람 시거레 파펠람 깨지
파펠람
자메 깨지 땅포 시거레 사땅포 투거레 뒤팀파 레 처음만 부차거다
라서
아니 레서도 사야메 라거
레
사사 균이야 말이 코로아 칭지기 레지거와 딱 균이 사르도 사야 균이 메어마레
데도 디 사캬키 디
동이 또
방요레
와다 레 강가 레 사르도 사야 메차다 아마 파차왕기 자샤교 아메 링인바 방구로와 링은 바테기디 아니 사든바 버도 뇽몽 방구와레 사게파니 시티파양 고좀 거레
디 사탕포니 dumba portu nyomong fangore mama sasha ke nyomong te supon gore ani sakepa patu
le soma sartu sai gunme sorta tipe minsi benenga te shena kana zoyan roikeji unguri
and so additional information here is that there are, said to be, there are the 5 paths, the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the path of meditation, the or the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and the path of no more learning. So these are the 5 paths. And so that it's said that bodhicitta arises on the second path, the path of preparation, and sometimes called the path of joining or the path of preparation. And then through habituating bodhicitta and di tsoklam, di jangcham, jangsam, di tsoklam, solam.
Solam, then Jorlam.
Okay, so, okay.
Jorlam.
Okay. Okay.
Jorlam tala riji or that is why I
And so it's on the path of accumulation that one is working with bodhicitta and the understanding of emptiness, and then through habituating this, one continues to work with bodhicitta and the understanding of emptiness, and then brings this into the path of joining or the path of preparation. So actually bodhicitta arises in terms of that first path, the path of accumulation. It's called actually the lower path of accumulation. So there's actually distinctions on that first path. So it's the lower path or the smaller, lesser path of accumulation. And then meditating on bodhicitta and the understanding of emptiness, then one enters into the path of preparation or joining. And actually within the path of preparation and joining there are many levels and distinctions, but then one along the path of preparation, one meditates and habituates and meditates and habituates. And from this path of this second path of preparation, then one reaches the path of seeing, which is the path of seeing, the third path, where one actually has the direct experience and understanding of emptiness. This is called the path of seeing, or sometimes called the Arya path, or the noble path, where you become an Arya being. You have seen emptiness directly. There are also other names of this path, this third path, the path of seeing, the undefiled path. It's the path where one is then no longer accumulating any negative karma. And it's said that in between this first path, so this is actually the first bhumi, which is the third path, and in between the first bhumi and the seventh, this is where one is working to abandon afflictive emotions, that all of the afflictive emotions are actually being abandoned. And so having an understanding of the progression of one's spiritual practice being applied to the different paths and one's spiritual progress, it should give us just this real delight in wanting to enthusiastically engage in the practice.
Oh yeah. Now enough. I have a question. I don't know how much. 30 minutes. Yeah, now Kundu Zambo Teyan Tejintu Teda Kungi Jizodal Gawan Dida Tamje Raptu Tisum Shepe Kawa Tam Kanla Chodo Ngapadan La Jenge Tawan Dik Zambo Cheje Raptu Wara